Hi, everyone. Welcome to Balls and Strikes, brought to you by Americans for Good Government. I'm Gary Abernathy, your host, and I'm here with, as always, with Ken Buck, former congressman from the great state of Colorado. Ken, good to see you today. How have you been?
I'm doing great, Gary. What a wonderful time of year to be an American, close to our 250th birthday. Things can't be better.
Absolutely. Speaking of the 250th, Ken, I've been reading news reports about, the 250 celebration they're planning to have in Washington and all these country music stars that are dropping out because they don't want it to be so political and divisive. Republicans used to be able to count on country music stars. What's happening to the world?
Well, I think you move it to Nashville and then it's not political and you have a great time. I don't know why we celebrate DC in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Listen, I want to dive right in today to talk about something that, I've said, I know you've said, one of the biggest fears we have is the acceptance, the growing acceptance of socialism in this country and socialist candidates and office holders. And we're just doing a terrible job of reminding people why this is not what America should be all about. But our favorite mayor, Mayor Zohran Mamdani, I always trip over that. Mayor Mamdani has announced a new commission, the commission on government efficiency, as opposed to the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which is what Elon Musk and so on was doing in the Trump administration. So uh, the mayor of New York has said that he's using this to identify, a way to balance the budget. But unlike fighting waste, fraud, and cutting programs, the mayor has turned to Governor Kathy Hochul in New York, which pledged $8 billion over the next 2 years to help Mamdani balance his budget. Is there a little bit of a difference between balancing a budget that way versus finding ways to cut things like households have to do most of the time?
Yeah. So basically, what Mayor Mamdani is doing is raising taxes. He's raising property taxes in New York City on the wealthiest landowners. He is adding more expenditures to his budget with grocery stores and other projects. And then he is claiming to have an office of government efficiency. Government efficiency is all about how do you cut the fat, not how do you add more fat. And so once again, the socialists do a brilliant job, if I can use that word, of stealing good phrases, well-intentioned phrases, and trying to fool people into believing that they care about government efficiency. He doesn't.
Compare that to the way in Florida Governor DeSantis is balancing the budget. He's announced recently a nearly $115 billion budget proposal. It would mark the fourth consecutive year of reduced state spending. The centerpiece of his plan is a homestead exemption of up to $250,000 immediately, with a schedule that could lead to full elimination of the homestead property taxes. So there's an example of how we're supposed to balance budgets, how we're supposed to be fiscally responsible by identifying waste, fraud, abuse, ways that, we don't have to waste taxpayer dollars, versus the socialist way of balancing the budget, which is let's just grab more money that doesn't really exist in the first place.
Right. Governor DeSantis is really the lighthouse for this kind of program. You know, when you look at Minnesota and the terrible waste that you have there, you've got a Democrat governor, you've got a largely Democrat delegation from that state, and they try to cover up the waste that they obviously and the fraud that's being committed there. You go to California, you see the same thing, and they're attacking the messenger. They're not actually fixing the system. They're not admitting that they made mistakes. And the exact opposite is happening in Florida. Governor DeSantis recognizes that anytime you have social programs, you're going to have waste. Anytime you give money to some people, others are going to try to qualify for it. in a way that is wrong and counter to the rules. So you've got a situation in Florida where Minnesota and California should take a good look and try to emulate that, but they're not going.
You know, you mentioned the grocery stores, the socialist grocery stores that Mamdani wants to create in New York. It's a $70 million plan for 5 city-run grocery stores. Now, the East Harlem store alone is projected at $30 million in a neighborhood, Ken, within a 35-minute walk of about 45 existing grocery stores that are now going to be, you know, competing with the one with the government's backing. I mean, the world is upside down, isn't it?
It's upside down when you think about 45 grocery stores operating within a short distance of this government-run grocery store. They have to make a profit. They are delivering quality goods to people so that those people keep coming back. They're delivering them at a competitive price so that the customers keep coming back. And now you've got a government run grocery store that will walk in. And ultimately what's going to happen is many of those grocery stores in the area that are privately run will go out of business. And when they go out of business, there will be less food available at decent prices for the people of Harlem. It is exactly what's wrong with socialism. They don't understand basic economics.
I wonder if the average New Yorker ever is going to figure this out, or how much credit can we give New Yorkers who elected Mamdani for recognizing the scam that's going on?
Well, in fairness, they didn't have great choices, number one. And also, they have a history of being bailed out by Democrat administrations in the federal government or Democrat administrations in the state government. So they haven't felt the pain from their ridiculous policies up to this point. Now, at some point, we're not going to have money at the federal level or the state level to bail them out, and they will feel the pain.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Ken, it's good to talk to you again today. Let people know how they can become involved, and especially with AGG.
Yeah, please. If you like this podcast, the weekly columns that I do, the videos, the great news sources that are on the website, go to Americans for the number 4 goodgov.org. And we'd love to see you there and get some of your feedback on how this podcast, Balls and Strikes, can be more relevant.